I am also, okay, so we're live and we're recording and all is good. And I'm also going to start my closed captioning um, where I can start my live stream, go live, and we should be able to get closed captioning. And there are people in the room and closed captioning is happening. Can y'all see my closed captioning? Just put a little thumbs up if you see it. Can everybody see that? Yes, I am so pumped. I made that work. Yes. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm just so delighted to see you. We're going to let the room populate for a second, but if you're here to celebrate the launch of the brand new, beautiful book, 30,000 Stitches by Amanda Davis, you are in the right place. I'm going to let this room populate because I know there are a bunch of people who are registered to join us for this event. And this is the time when I do a little friendly banter with our special guests. And I just want to I just want to say thank you to Jeff Parness and Carolyn and Denny Deters, who are here from the New York Says Thank You Foundation. And we'll do a formal introduction in a couple of minutes. But I just want to say, Amanda, I see your beautiful background. I just want to say, first of all, hi. And what is all around you?
Oh, yes, we have a nice setup going on here. So the flag that's behind me, we will talk about in a little bit. I'll explain that one. And then, of course, we have the book. And then we have some nice book swag behind that, a pillow.
Nice.
And then, yeah, just a little sign, because we can't be there in person. So welcome and just thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming. And I'm really excited.
Me too. Yes, this is the best. Jeff and Carolyn and Denny, hi. Y'all are in, I think y'all are in New York, but I might have just lied about that. Jeff, why don't you say hi and then I will let the Deters introduce themselves. Jeff, say hello.
Sure, hi. I am a New Yorker, but I am technically in Michigan right now.
Okay, technically, I like that. That's an interesting term for that. Yes. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Deters. Tell us where you are.
We are in Glenwood, Iowa.
Nice. I love that Zoom makes it so that we can all be in a room together, even though we're not in a room together. This is just so important and so wonderful. I'm so grateful. I already see that the chat is full of excited chatter. I'm so glad that everyone is here. I guess I'm going to go on ahead and do my spiel and then we're going to get started. Hi, my name is Kira Wilson-Cook. I am the events coordinator for the Silver Unicorn Bookstore in Acton, Massachusetts. It is an honor, an absolute honor, to be here to launch Amanda Davis's brand new book, 30,000 Stitches, which is a commemoration of the National 9/11 flag. And we are about to mark the 20th anniversary of the tragedy of 9/11. This is such an important book to be published right at this moment. And this is such a poignant moment to stop and pause and remember, as we know we've never forgotten, but yet we still need to mark this moment in really important ways. And this book is going to be part of that. I'm so glad that you are here. Book launches are essentially celebrations, and we do celebrate you, Amanda, and we're so grateful that you chose us to be part of that celebration. And yet it's so strange to use that word in the context of the title, I mean, of the topic of the day. So I just want to say, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Denny. Thank you, all of you, for being here this evening with us as we celebrate the launch of a book and we pause to remember. This is going to be amazing. Now, usually, as many fans of the Silver Unicorn know, I kind of disappear at this point. I say that I'm rambling and then I disappear. But I'm going to stick around for a couple of minutes. The first housekeeping things I want to say is that all of y'all are doing a great job filling up the chat with happy congratulations for Amanda. I hope that you continue to do so. If you have questions for Amanda or for Carolyn and Denny and Jeff, please put them in the Q&A. That way I can pay attention to them and ask them toward the end of this evening. Amanda has some fun surprises for you, and I think that she will introduce those in a couple of minutes. So I will disappear to help make that happen while cool things are going on here, and then be back for Q&A. Now I think what I'm going to do is put us all in gallery mode. Oh, we're all already in gallery mode, but I am going to spotlight Amanda like so. But bam, everybody sees you. Hello.
Hello.
And before we really get going, what I'd like to do is kind of ask everybody, actually, I'm not going to ask everybody a question. I'm going to introduce Amanda, who is, I mean, again, the author of this beautiful book, and let you do some thank yous. And then I will ask everyone to do a little participation. So Amanda, here you go.
All right. Thank you so much, Kira, for that beautiful introduction. As you said, this is such a beautiful book, but it's also a difficult topic to be talking about. So I'm also very grateful to have Jeff and Carolyn and Denny here because they were a part of this flag's journey and they can really speak to the meaning and the positivity behind it. So yeah, before we dive in, I just wanted to say my thank yous. There's so many of them. This is my debut book, so it's been a long time on this journey and working to get to this point. I know there's a lot of other creators out there that can relate to that. So it's almost surreal. I actually have the physical book now, which is cool. So that makes it even more real, but it still feels a bit surreal. And yeah, I don't know. So there's just a lot of people to thank. I wanted to thank my family, my friends for their support and their encouragement. My mom in particular, my partner, Sadan, who had looked over this manuscript so many times, read things so many times. He's just been awesome. And my sister Stephanie, who I think she was here, I saw her in the chat. She is in Australia joining us. But even though she's at a distance, she's been a huge support system for me. And all the people on my book team, it truly takes a village to bring these books to life after a publisher signed you for the deal. It's a whole entire team that you're working with to bring this book out into the world. So my team, I wanted to say thank you to my editor, Peggy, my agent, Melissa, and the art director, who is John Trent, the members of the marketing team, Kat and Katie and Elliot. They've been amazing. The wonderfully talented illustrator, I could not have asked for, better work here. This is just beautiful, and I think captures the meaning and the layers, the texture of this story beautifully. Sally Warren Comport, thank you. She took my words and brought them to life, and that's really what picture books are all about, a nice balance between the words and the art. So huge thank you to Sally. Her work is amazing, and there would be no book without her. And to all of my critique groups, my writing partners, my illustration partners, anyone who had any swaps with me in manuscripts, or even just questions. I've asked a lot of questions along my journey here, and people have just been so gracious in the children's book community answering questions. I'm just so grateful for you all. And some of my writing communities like Grub Street, the Writer's Loft, here in Massachusetts. I actually had my very first poems and illustrations published in the Writer's Loft book here. So that's been really cool to be a part of their community. Storyteller Academy. And then I saw some of my debut group members out there, 21 for the Books. You all have been integral in trying to navigate this debut year, especially with a lot of stuff being done virtually now. And thank you so much for your support and encouragement and your help and expertise. And all the people who helped me with this story. And Jeff and Carolyn and Denny are here tonight. There were multiple other people. You all, again, this book would not have been possible without you. And the fact that you're the ones that made this whole flag happen, not this flag, but the one in the book. And I just can't thank you enough for talking with me, being there to answer any questions. Just your passion and dedication to this story is what made me know I needed to put this into this book form and get it out there for people, because Just speaking with you was so inspiring, and just the selflessness that you put out there. It's just, yeah, I knew I had to tell this story. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to speak with you more tonight about it. And of course, Silver Unicorn, thank you for hosting. And Kira, this is amazing. I'm so glad we could collaborate, and you all rock. So yeah, I can't see anyone in the audience, but I do know you're there. Thank you for chatting in the chat there. Just thank you so much. I can't even, I've already said it now multiple times, but yeah, I really appreciate the support and just everyone being here. It means so, so much. So the next thing I think that we were going to do was have Kira come back on.
I am here. I'm hoping everybody can see me in gallery. I am now going to, I see there are just, everybody is so excited for you, Amanda. And so now, since everyone seems to know how to use the chat, we're going to ask you to do a little participation for us. I'm going to invite you, the audience, to place one word in the chat that comes to mind when you think of the events of 9/11. I know that that's heavy, but let's just take a moment. If you would just please put that in the chat and make sure that your setting is on panelists and attendees, that would be helpful. I'm going to just be silent for a second, and we'll take 30 seconds, okay? I am seeing words like tragic, sadness, horror, heart, suffocation, shock, united, disbelief, 9/12, unbelievable. Yes, these are really poignant, and they are so true. Grief and loss, resilience. Yes. Thank you for that, everyone. Amanda, I'd love to know, what is the one word that you think of when you think of 9/11?
Yeah. So my one word is hope, because arising from the darkness came hope. And that is really what this story, 30,000 Stitches, is all about. I see strength and kindness in the chat as well. Someone just put that in. That's also, woven into this story as well, but really about the hope and 9/12, the after, how did we move on and heal, and what can we learn? So how out of the tragedy came compassion and service to others. And this is exactly what drew me to the story when I first learned about it in 2011, and what I hope that we'll talk more about tonight.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit more about what drew you to the story, and what the inspiration was for this book?
Yes. So I am a high school art teacher, and around the 10th remembrance of 9/11, I was searching for a lesson that I could do with my high school art students. And since 9/11 kind of sneaks up early in the year, I remember it was summer, and I was like, what am I going to do? I like to teach about it every year, and I knew that it was the 10 years coming up. So I wanted to really think about a project I could do with them that would be meaningful, and also, again, focus on hope. So learn about the tragedy, but also the hope. And so I came across this little blurb in a magazine with the story of the flag. And I was like, this is amazing. This is what the lesson needs to be about. So I taught students about the flag, and then we created our own flag. So that is what you see behind me there. That is the flag that we created 10 years ago. Now it's in my house. And the themes of it were exactly the themes of the book. So each student got a little square. You can kind of see the individual squares. And we talked about, what does it mean to be an American? Identity, like, what is your identity? And we discussed those things, and then we brought all those squares together. So we'll learn more about the story of the National 9/11 flag, but essentially it was first kind of patched back together and then restored. But we brought our squares together almost like the little patches that were used to restore the flag, to really symbolize unity and coming together to overcome tragedy or difficult times. So it was such a meaningful project. And then we covered it with the stripes and tissue paper and all that. So yeah, it was just such a meaningful project. And I love history. I love learning new things. And this was a new story for me too. And I kind of just wanted to learn more. So that was what led me to do a little bit more research. But that also kind of took some time to grow.
That's amazing. Wow. Can you tell us a little bit just about your process and your support community? I'm so glad that you shouted out Grub Street and the Writer's Loft, which are two communities that I love so much. Can you tell us just a little bit about how it is that you made this, and who and how those communities helped shape this for you?
How did I make it? Yeah, well, so like I said, it kind of took a little bit of time to germinate and flourish into something that I thought I could make into a book. And actually, after I visited the September 11th Memorial and Museum, which was right around when it opened in 2014, that was kind of another reminder of, I was just really struck by all the stories that I read there and all the artifacts that I saw. And that was another reminder of why I needed to tell this story. And so, yeah, that led me to the research. And I feel like that was kind of the first component of crafting this story, was learning more, doing the research, getting in touch with people like Jeff and Carolyn and Denny and Charlie Victors, who was the Ground Zero superintendent, speaking with all of them and gathering that information first, because I knew if I was going to do this or attempt it, that I needed to do it right. And I wanted to do it right. I wanted to get everything right. And I still feel that way. The book is not in the world yet, not quite yet. But I think there's just an added pressure too, because it's such a special story. There's so many people involved in it. So yeah, leaning on my groups was really important. Leaning on the people who were involved were really important. And my critique groups were essential. They read that story multiple times. They helped me revise. So it was a lot of research, a lot of revision, and then I would say 3 R's: research, revision, and then adding the refrain in there. A refrain is kind of a repeated line throughout. And for the book, it's the fabric of America, something. And that was kind of added in later on, because I was trying to find a way to, again, focus on the transformation of the flag, and also the hope. So I hope that we did that. But yeah, so I feel like that was sort of the process, and definitely the writing communities, my critique partners, all of the people I spoke to were integral to this story, because it's, like I said, it's a real story. It's, everyone has their own experience with 9/11 too. And, I want to make sure I'm communicating this in a way that's accurate and meaningful. And, yeah.
So one last question before I really do disappear. Can you tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the texture earlier. Can you talk a little bit about the beautiful illustrations, and maybe a bit about that process and your relationship with the illustrator here, Sally, and what these illustrations do for your words?
Yes. They're exactly what I pictured, honestly. I was picturing something like Torn, an artist that does collage and mixed media, because that could really, illustrations that could really capture that transformation. So going from torn and tattered and kind of dark to bright, and that you see that transition throughout too in the book. And Sally's work is a perfect combination of all of those things. And also someone that is familiar with nonfiction. That was really important to me, who was able to capture the likeness of people's faces, and again, kind of the accuracy part of it. So her work is just a combination of all of those things. And I feel like it's so layered. When we see some of the pages, when I read some of them in a little bit, you'll see that she almost has like hidden meaning within some of them. And, just the actual it looks like fabric. I don't know what she did still. But yeah, so I was just amazed at, it blew me away what she was able to do with the illustrations, and I'm thrilled with it. And I think that that's a huge part of the book. So yeah.
It is. Oh, I just can't wait to bring in Jeff and Carolyn and Denny. And so this is the part where I really am going to turn off my camera and disappear a little bit so that we can bring in these really special guests. I want to remind our guests, of which there are many. I'm so happy for you that there's so many people here to celebrate you in this book, to go on ahead and put your questions in the Q&A. So I know that there are some questions in the chat. I need them to go in the Q&A so that way I can find them later as everyone continues to chat. And I will be back in a little bit to help with that Q&A. So Amanda, go on ahead and introduce Jeff and Carolyn and Denny, and I'll be back in a little bit.
All right. I think we were going to do the reading of the book first,
Yes.
and then so
We can also do that.
All right. So I wanted to just show people a little sneak peek of the book. I'm going to try to share my screen here for a moment. Hopefully this works. Let's see how good my technical skills have gotten throughout this past year here. All right, there's the screen. Can you all see that? Hopefully. Do you see that?
Yes,
Jeff?
we can.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to view, present. I'm going to hide this. Okay. Okie dokie. All right. So yeah, I wanted to give everyone a little sneak peek so we can see a little bit more of what I'm talking about when we're talking about the illustrations and the refrain and all of that. So yeah, I'm just going to do a little reading here, and then we will get to talking with Jeff and Carolyn and Denny. So 30,000 Stitches, the inspiring story of the National 9/11 flag. Like I said, this was a new story to me too. I hadn't heard of it when I read about it at the 10-year mark. So the story is written by me and it's illustrated by Sally Warren Comport, and it releases in 1 week, which is so very exciting, with Worthy Kids # book group. And it tells a true story of the American flag that was placed over Ground Zero days after 9/11, becoming torn and tattered and eventually taken down. And later the flag traveled on a historic journey across all 50 states to be restored back to the original 13 stripes and 50 stars. And then it returned to New York on the 10th anniversary of 9/11, as a symbol of unity and hope. So here we go with our little reading. So this is the first page here. On September 11th, 2001, New York City was attacked. 2 planes were flown into the World Trade Center. The Twin Towers collapsed and nearly 3,000 people lost their lives. It was a tragic day in America's history. Days later, high above the wreckage of the buildings, construction workers hung an American flag, 30 feet wide, 20 feet tall, blowing in the New York City wind at 90 West Street. So after this point in time, the flag started getting really torn and tattered and ripped. So the construction workers and volunteers who were working at Ground Zero to help clean up, they decided to take it down. And it got stored away in Charlie Victor's shed, who was the superintendent working at Ground Zero. And it stayed there for 7 years, waiting and waiting and waiting until another disaster happened in Greensburg, Kansas. And a tornado had hit there and destroyed about 95% of the small town. And volunteers in New York and from other surrounding areas heard the news about what happened in Greensburg, and they decided they wanted to go down and help them rebuild the town. And this was a year later, so 8 years. And just how others volunteered to help rebuild New York. So they really wanted to give back. And Jeff and Carolyn can talk more about kind of the mission of New York Says Thank You too. So before the visit, residents of Greensburg asked the volunteers to bring a memento from the World Trade Center to put in the memorial park they planned to build. The time had come. Aged but not forgotten, the flag was brought out of storage. Ragged and torn, white stripes gray with ash. And so the plan was to bring the flag down to Greensburg and have it buried in a memorial park that they planned to build, like it just said. But instead, residents of a local senior center saw the flag and they saw its strength and they saw how it glimmered with hope. So they decided to patch the flag back together and make it whole again. So instead of burying the flag, it was brought back to life. And this is showing the flag after it was patched back together in Greensburg. So with the patchwork complete, a grand idea was born. The flag would travel to each state to be fully restored, back to 15 stripes, back to 50 stars. The fabric of America heals. And so at this point in the book, the flag then goes on to travel to all 50 states, and you get to see some of the special places that the flag stopped in. And then it finally reaches its last stop in Joplin, Missouri, and this is on September 11, 2011. So it says, at long last, on September 11, 2011, 10 years after the Twin Towers collapsed, the flag made its last stop. In Joplin, Missouri, the hands of 1,067 tornado survivors placed stitches. And I just wanted to pause on this slide just for a minute, and I wanted to ask everyone out there, what do you see? What do you see in this image? Because this is one of my favorite spreads in the book. Sally, as we just talked about, she really layers other images in there. And I love just to, if you want to type in the chat, what do you see in this image? And I'm going to see if I can see the chat again. I don't know. I don't see the chat, so maybe I can go back. Oh, here it is. Diversity, hope, unity, history. Sea to shining sea. Multicultural representation. Her artwork is right on, realistic. Yes, yes. American patchwork. Thank you all. Yeah, I love this slide because I feel like it captures so much of what this book is about all the different people that came out from the different states, from different backgrounds to stitch this flag back together. We see soldiers, we see construction workers, we see young children, all different types of people. And then you can see sort of the path and the journey that the flag has taken in some of the special places that it went to. So we see the Capitol building, the Statue of Liberty, the Kennedy Space Center. So it just, yeah, all the texture and detail, but this kind of really encompasses that unity and the people coming together to bring this flag back to life. Oops. And yeah, so after Joplin, then the flag returned to New York and fully restored, and the fabric of America endures. And there you see, again, kind of all the different people that helped the flag along this journey and told their stories and stitched their stories into this flag. And that's the last page. And I wanted to end with this one. So I feel like this is a nice tie into Jeff and Carolyn and Denny, because these are some of the real life pictures. And again, this is a real life story. So I wanted to show you the flag. The first one you're seeing on the far left is the flag when it was hung up at 90 West Street. And at that point, it's all torn and tattered. And then the middle one is when it is patched back together after Greensburg, Kansas. And then the last one is when it was fully restored. And that was at a commissioning ceremony for the USS Michael Murphy. And I just feel like showing these three stages of the flag is really parallel to not just the healing of the flag, but the healing of the people. And like I said, there was so much research that went into this book. And that brings me back to Jeff and Carolyn and Denny, who I would like to introduce now. So I'm going to stop sharing and we can have you all come on. Did I stop sharing? Did that work? Okay. All right. So Jeff and Carolyn and Denny, where are we at here? Thank you again for being here. And you all were such an integral part of the National 9/11 flag. And you all are part of the New York Says Thank You Foundation. And you were part of the Flag Tour staff. So I'll let you introduce yourselves too, but I'll give you a little introduction here. So Jeff Parness is the executive director and founder of the New York Says Thank You Foundation. And Carolyn and Denny Deters were amazing duo for the Flag Tour staff. They each had their own roles, which they're going to talk about now. So I'm going to turn it over to you all to tell us a little bit more about your roles with the flag and your experience with it. And was that my first one? Hang on here. Yes, your roles and your experience with the flag. So if you want to start us off, Jeff, because you can talk a little bit more about New York Says Thank You too.
Sure. So I'm kind of choked up. You have done something, I don't use this word a lot, but it's miraculous, because you took a story of American history that not a lot of people still know about, that is so important to tell, and especially to children, and to make it safe for parents to have a conversation with kids who might hear about 9/11, but who should also learn about 9/12 and the power of kindness and compassion. The words you have figured out how to put together to tell this story and the pictures do it honor beyond measure. So we can't thank you enough. And New York Says Thank You started with a suggestion from my 5-year-old son back in 2003. He wanted to help kids in the wildfires in California. And me and 2 friends drove a truck from New York City to California filled with relief supplies with a big sign that said, New York Says Thank You. Because it was our way to say, you know, when 9/11 happened, so many people from around the country and around the world came to help us. We wanted to pay it forward. A couple months later, Evan was watching the Weather Channel and he came into my home office and he said, Dad, when Josh and I grow up, could we drive the truck if there's a tornado in Iowa? Right. So as a child, he wanted to figure out, how do we keep paying it forward? How do we keep helping people? Never in our wildest dreams could we have imagined that a tornado in Iowa would have hit the Little Sioux Scout Camp that's so connected to the heart and soul of Denny and Carolyn Deters. And it brought it all full circle. So what you've done here, and especially in the context of the 20th anniversary of 9/11, is to tell one of the greatest American stories. You know, it took 100 years for people to really learn the history of the Star-Spangled Banner flag. So we're ahead of the curve with your book and with Sally's drawings. And we just can't thank you enough for honoring the story, and especially all the people, all the FDNY firefighters who took time away from their family and their friends to travel the country. We had firefighters from Louisiana and Illinois and Arkansas who all served as the honor guard, first responders around the country who stood guard with this national treasure and made it possible for everybody to place their stitch in. You guys have really done something so special to capture the essence of it. And the last thing I just wanted to share is, you know, as parents, you know, my young children are now graduating college and in college, and parents are naturally wired to try to shelter their children from sadness and harm and evil in the world. But you have found a wonderful way to broach one of the most difficult subjects in American history and world history in a way that truly honors the hope that's embodied in the story of this flag.
Thank you, Jeff. That means a lot. And yeah, I think especially we're at a generation now where the students weren't alive during 9/11, so it truly is history to them. I mean, for a lot of us who are here, it was a lived experience in our own way. So yeah, the fact that hopefully this book can open up discussions about that and help them understand these difficult things. Thank you. Carolyn and Denny, over to you.
Well, first of all, Amanda, when you first called, I thought you've got a big hill to climb. This is a story that we had hard time getting even people to be interested in to begin with. I mean, it was one of those things where we started on around 9/11 of 2010, And we were going to do this in a year's time. And as of January 1st, we had 7 states done. So we had a long way to go. But we made it. But I want to thank you really, because it is a beautiful story. You just really did a marvelous job. And the illustrations, you are right, they are just perfect for the book. You know, Jeff says he's getting choked up. I told Denny a minute ago, I said, I'm getting teary-eyed. You know, it's just like reliving it all over. And it was quite a journey for us too.
Yeah,
I don't know what we expected, really. But it was so much more than we could have ever anticipated.
yeah, Jeff came to Little Sioux. I'm involved in the Boy Scouts a lot, and Jeff alluded to the fact that we had a tornado hit Little Sioux. We had 4 of our Boy Scouts that died, and they came and helped us build a chapel. And Jeff came to me and looked at me and he said, I got this crazy idea about this flag, because they brought the flag to Little Sioux. He said, I got this crazy idea. What do you think about you and your wife taking it around the country in a motorhome and repairing it? And I thought he was nuts. I thought he was really crazy, but we made it happen.
He is.
Yeah, well, but we made it happen. Thanks to Jeff's leadership and thanks to my wife, who became the Betsy Ross of the flag. There's some funny stories about her. She made a Betsy Ross costume for the first place we went to, and had the kids. The kids just went crazy over her with the Betsy Ross thing. And
I was shocked that most of it, that so many of them knew who Betsy Ross was even, but it was actually it was Jeff's fault I did it. So
but we started out, and like Carolyn said, there were 7 states that we did that first year, and the rest of them we did from the 1st of January of 2011 to September 11th of 2011. We ended up with every state. I mean, there were
43 states and the capital.
Yeah,
So.
and there were times when we were driving that I had asked Carolyn, I said, where are we going next? Because she ended up being the tour guide too, as well as the stitcher. We ended up, if you saw that middle picture, when the people in Greensburg stitched that flag back together again, they used 13 other flags. I think it was 11 or 13 other flags that had survived the tornado at Little Sioux, just to patch this thing together.
No, survived at Greensburg.
At Greensburg. And so we ended up taking and creating patches from flags that were of some historical value, and our
Ready to be retired.
yeah, that was the key element. We were never going to cut up a flag that still could be flown. So we did a lot of research in a lot of places in different areas of the United States to make sure that we had flags that were donated to us that had been flown over places like Francis Scott Key's grave to Martin Luther King and all kinds of different places that these flags flew. And we had a seamstress here in Omaha that actually we would send
Thank God she made patches.
we would tell her what size patches we needed out of whether they were red or white or blue, and we'd send the flag to her. She would create this patch and send it back to us in time for the stitching ceremony. And Jeff ended up with a lot of we all 3 of us ended up in an awful lot of places to have the American people stitch this flag back together again.
What was amazing to me was everywhere you went, you realized how this tragedy had affected the entire nation, because invariably someone would come up and they would tell us about someone that they knew that they had lost on 9/11. I mean, it was just, it was just unbelievable. I mean, we were eating dinner and we had our shirts on one night, and the waiter his friend had been on one of the co-pilots on Flight 93.
Flight 93? No, Flight 11.
but, you know, so, I mean, it was amazing that you didn't realize the scope of the tragedy until we actually did this. I mean, you knew, you know, there were people from everywhere, but you just didn't realize that it was such an intimate thing to a lot of people, you know, and how much, and how, in all honesty, you know, Denny and I were like everybody else when, you know, 9/11 happened. And in doing this, we just realized we had an incredible realization as to actually what this country had suffered and what we were managing to do by putting the flag back together. Yet people tell us this is the first good thing I've seen that came out of 9/11.
Mhm.
You know, and we'd hear things like that all the time. And the people were just, they were just amazing. I mean, we'd have people, and we had people from everywhere. I mean, we had kids, we had, you know, veterans, we had, you know, just everybody. You can't imagine the scope of the type of people that we had that would come. And, you know, and obviously as we did more and more events, it got more notoriety, and then, you know, it got a little bit easier to schedule the events anyway, but it was intense. I will say that it was very intense, but,
And there's,
but,
like Carolyn said, there's so many stories that came out of this thing over a year and a half, that there are so many people we met that had a direct connection to New York. In fact, the lady who worked us into the Hawaii to the USS Missouri, where we did it from, her husband was one of them that was lost on 9/11. And so they all came to us. And I think that flag, like Carolyn and Jeff says, I think that flag was the glue, if you will, that brought a lot of people together. And so I want to thank you too, Amanda, for all that you're doing with that book. I'm so anxious to see it, and hopefully the kids, you know, it's funny. It's been 20 years. Most of the people that are going to see this book probably weren't even born at that point. And
just like she said.
so, you know, to keep reminding people of the goodness that came out of 9/11. I've always thought that out of every tragedy, somewhere along the line, there's good that comes out of it. And
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good lesson that the book teaches. I mean, is
Oh,
that,
yeah.
you know, you can't imagine anything as awful as this spurring people to do something so amazing. You know, I mean, and obviously, you know, we weren't the only ones that did wonderful things after 9/11, but it really is. It restores your faith in human nature. You know, you realize that, you know, with everything that's going on, even now in the world, you realize that the vast majority of people are good people, and you know, and they're willing to step up when things happen and help each other. And, you know, and I think, you know, the flag was just one of those things that just brought people together that really wanted to be able to do something that left a positive spin on 9/11.
Amanda, I just wanted to add to something very important that Carolyn and Denny just said very quickly. When the 9/11 Memorial Museum opened to the world in 2014, the official ceremony to open the museum was us presenting the National 9/11 flag to the museum. And we had scores of young children holding the flag, surrounded by FDNY Honor Guard and police and first responders from around the country. And the last words that I said to the children at the end of the ceremony was, the National 9/11 flag is living proof that love is stronger than hate. And then it was marched into the museum. A year later, on the first anniversary of the opening of the museum, is when they actually put the flag on display. It was on display for about 2 years, came down on rotation. And one of the very first days I was there, and a young family with a young daughter was pacing in front of the flag, and there were tears streaming down the mother's face. And I talked to them. They were from Germany. And I asked them, you know, you're very emotional. Did you lose somebody on 9/11? They said, well, we didn't lose anybody on 9/11, but there was a German citizen in the building who was killed that day, and our daughter's school is named after him. And I said to her, what do you think of the flag? And her words to me were probably one of the greatest compliments we received. She says, oh, this is more than an American flag. It's a symbol of humanity. And I think that's what's reflected in your book. And it's what's reflected in the illustrations and the patchwork that honors how we brought so many stories and so much trauma that was unpacked into a healing way that healed this flag and that healed people who touched the flag. And to know that it brought our country together, I think it also made a very powerful message to the world that love is stronger than hate.
Yeah. And I think we have a couple more minutes because then we're going to jump into Q&A, but can both you, Jeff, and Carolyn and Denny, maybe in a couple sentences tell us, so thinking about where we are now in our society and some of the challenges that we have faced throughout this year and on a variety of fronts, what do you hope that young, not even just young readers, but adults too, what do you hope we take away from the story of the flag? And what would you want parents and educators to remember and teach their children about? Like for now, like what can we learn now to help us move forward with the things that are going on in our country?
It's a universal lesson, I think. I mean, the flag illustrates just what Denny was saying, is that out of every tragedy, some good will come. And but hopefully people will read this and realize that I can make a difference in having something good come out of a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that I think, it's just one episode that happened that made people realize that, there is good out of everything.
Yeah, Jeff has always said it. It's not about 9/11. It's about 9/12,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really the case where we took this flag and made something positive out of a unfortunate incident that happened not only in New York but in Washington and in Pennsylvania too. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but boy, I'd do it again if I was younger.
I don't know that. I don't know. Wait a minute.
You might be on your own, Denny.
So,
It was time consuming, and it was.
I have no regrets at all.
Oh, I don't either.
If I'd known it was going to be that much work, I don't know whether I would have done it. But once I was into it, it actually got to the point where we scheduled so many states, and we had them all in varying degrees of planning,
yes.
and pretty much. And when it got toward the end, and we'd done almost all of them, I sat there one day and I'm going, I have nothing to do. And I'm going, there's something seriously wrong here, but it was, like I say, it was very intense, but it is one of those things that
And it was probably one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, next to marrying her and having kids. It was just an incredible experience.
Amanda, I just want to share two quick anecdotes that touch upon this important question you asked. When I was thinking of all the experiences we had, there was a mother, a Gold Star mother in Connecticut who had lost her son in the military. And she brought his son's picture and placed it right next to the stitch that she was placing. And she was crying and tears fell on the flag. And she looks at me and she apologized. And I said, what are you apologizing for? Well, I'm so sorry, my tears fell on the flag. And I looked at her and I said, you should only apologize if your tears didn't fall on the flag, right? So that lesson of unity and that everybody has the ability to place one stitch, I think is so universal. And that's what I think we all have to take away, that nothing's impossible when people come together to help each other recover from tragedy and from loss. And I think it's an American thing. I think it's a human thing. It's a global thing. Especially now, when we thought we were done, we weren't. And we got a call from the Star Spangled Banner Flag House Museum in Baltimore, Maryland that said, well, you guys have the modern day version of the Star Spangled Banner, and it's not going to be complete unless it has threads from the original. So the last ceremony we did was stitching in 3 red threads from the original Star Spangled Banner. And like I said, the significance of that flag in American history is it's thought of as the greatest symbol of resilience, because the War of 1812 was the first time the country had to defend itself from a foreign invasion. But I've always said, I think this flag in some way is more important because it's not only a symbol of resilience, it's a symbol of compassion. And the depth of compassion, American people and people from around the world who placed, stitches in this. And that's the lesson, right? Unity and compassion. We'll be able to get through anything with those values.
Unity, compassion, making a difference, and yeah, those universal emotions. I feel like at our core, you talked about, the tears. Like, I think most of us have probably cried in our life or lost someone we loved. Like, we all know what that feels like. And I lost my dad when I was young. And I feel like that was another draw for me to this story, because I didn't lose anyone during 9/11. But again, like I know that pain too. Like that's something that connects us, those universal emotions. So.
And what's so beautiful about this book, and I hope all the people watching this and everybody else who's going to learn about it will experience, books sometimes are often two-dimensional, but this is so three-dimensional and then some. You have really gone into the depth of the heart and soul of the story and the sadness and the enormity of the historical context and these images and the words and the way you threaded, together the fabric of America Heals. The fabric is always very tenuous, right? But we all have to do things that either divide us or we do things that unite us. And I think that's what's so beautiful. Children are going to see those little white marks all throughout those are the 30,000 stitches that change people's lives.
Mm-hmm. That's us.
Mm-hmm. You done good.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Carolyn, Denny. Thank you, Jeff. I think we have, some questions from the audience. Is that right, Kira?
Oh, we do. And we have limited time, unfortunately. So I don't even know what to do here. This has been everything. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm going to say Moni wants to know where the flag was originally stored. And I think we heard that question, that it was in an RV for a minute. Is that what I heard?
No. So what happened was the flag was hung up the morning of the 13th, September 13th, by two construction workers who went to secure the scaffolding at 90 West Street, which had been on fire for 48 hours. And there were actually two people who died in that building who are often forgotten in the story, Maria Isabel Ramirez and George Ferguson. And both Maria's mother, Elsie Citron Rosado, and George's widow, Mary, are essential to the story of the flag, because they were the ones who put some of the first stitches in, and we realized so many other people need to heal through it. So it was originally hung on 90 West Street in late October of 2001. That's when Charlie Vichers was able to send a crew up the scaffolding, and he said, "Bring me the remains of the flag." And he put it in a bag, and he was originally going to give it to a veterans group or to have it honorably retired. And he brought it back to his home in Chehalis, Pennsylvania, where 7 years later he still had it. And when Charlie was coming with our organization, New York Says Thank You, to help rebuild Greensburg, Kansas in 2008, we had received a request from the folks in Greensburg, "Do you have any remnants of the Trade Center to create a memorial park in Greensburg?" And I knew Charlie had pieces of steel, so I went to visit him. And he says, "To tell you the truth, I got the pieces of this 30-foot American flag that was destroyed 8 years ago. And we're like, "What's the right protocol? Are you supposed to burn it and bury the ashes in an honorable ceremony?" So we're like, "Well, let's do that." And then we looked at each other like, "Why are we going to bury this? Why don't we just bring it back to life?" That's how this whole thing started. That was all the thought that went into this.
That is incredible. This is incredible. So I think that actually plays beautifully into the next question, which is, what mediums did Sally use for recreating that texture in the illustrations? I don't know if you know, Amanda, but I think that a lot of people would love to know that.
I actually don't know for sure. As an artist myself, I could take some guesses. I'm pretty sure it's
magic.
Collage or magic. Yep. Maybe she even scanned in a texture and then laid it over. I know she does things by hand and also a little bit digitally. So it looks like a lot of it is collage and then drawn, and then perhaps some sort of scanned overlay of the texture put over it to make it look like, the texture of the flag. Mhm. Very beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I got some emailed questions. So I'm going to open one of the emailed ones. One was asked, is Amanda going to write any other nonfiction books? And are you going to illustrate any of your own work?
Good questions. Yes, I love nonfiction. It's definitely a challenge, but I have a background in journalism. So I love talking to people and meeting new people and hearing their stories. And again, that was one of my, I don't want to say favorite because that sounds, icky since what we're talking about, but really meeting and talking with Jeff and Carolyn and Denny and Charlie, like that was one of my favorite parts of this. And that's because that is the story. So yes, I do have other nonfiction stories underway because I love nonfiction. And the other part of that question, illustrating. Yes, and I have other manuscripts that I have also illustrated that I hope to have published too. And one of those is very close to my heart with a topic that's personal. So that one means a lot to me, and I hope that we can get it out there.
Was there a temptation to illustrate this one yourself, which is another question that I got emailed earlier today?
Well, that's a good question too. No, I felt like someone could do it better. There's so much talent out there, and like I said, I had a vision of kind of like the style that I was thinking for this book, and Sally was it. Like this was it, and this is not something that I do, and I don't have as much experience illustrating nonfiction, like we were saying, realistic work. So my work is much more like whimsical and loose and kind of sketchy, and it just did not feel right. So I was excited to collaborate with someone on this one. And Sally was actually, there's a funny story that I won't tell in this one, but maybe at some other point with how I connected with Sally. But she was like, yeah, one of the people I found her work, and I was like, I wish I could have her. So that doesn't happen very often. But yeah, so I didn't really have a desire to illustrate this one.
Amanda, I just wanted to say quickly, we were so grateful when Sally put the photo of the FDNY firefighter holding the flag on the cover. And there are so many of the FDNY firefighters that we could thank. Many of them were survivors of 9/11. And I don't want to name one person at the expense of everybody else, but I really want to thank Jimmy Sands, who was an FDNY firefighter who joined after 9/11, survived the Deutsche Bank fire in 2007, which was actually one of the last remnants of the World Trade Center disaster. And Jimmy coordinated, senior FDNY firefighters, much older and more senior than him, and first responders around the country who really honored this flag and the process of its restoration. And we would not have had the experience if it was just the three of us, without the uniformed first responders around the country. And like I said, there were a lot of other guys, Fitzy and Patty Mack, Patty Neville, and there's so many others. But Jimmy really made it happen. And I think that also shows up in the book as well.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were working, right? They were working and then volunteering their time. So
they took vacation, that they could have been spending with their family. And it was one of the most poignant moments when the flag was given to the museum. Some of those FDNY firefighters who survived 9/11 were there at the site with their families, and for some it was the first time they were back. Mm-hmm. So this flag and this process has had a lot of healing in it, and I think it shows through in every single one of the words and the pictures in this amazing book.
Thank you.
So we have one last question, and then I think we should do our last little bits here. So our last question, I'll read it verbatim. It says, as you talk about the book with those connected with 9/11, what has inspired you?
Is that for everyone, do we think?
For you.
I think it's for you.
So as we talk about, I think that was my husband.
Yeah.
You're stumping me. As you talk about the book with those connected to 9/11, what has inspired you? What has inspired me? The stories and the people and the themes. Yeah. Like I feel like there is so much going on right now. Like there's so many similarities, I feel like, between overcoming what we did then and like what we have to do now to move forward. And I just feel like there's so much we can learn in terms of healing and, like we said, unity and coming together and listening to one another and listening to one another's stories, like asking questions and caring about each other. And that is really inspiring to me. And the work that went into this, like, yeah, Jeff and Carolyn and Denny and all the people that were involved with this flag. I think it was Carolyn that you talked about, or saying you thought Jeff was crazy for having this vision, but it's also kind of, that's inspiring in itself. It's like you can have a vision to do something and you can do it and you can make a difference, and it takes coming together, right? Like this was a whole team of people that helped, with this journey of this flag. And that in itself is inspiring. And I always like to say, I feel like we can do anything we put our minds to, if we come together and if we really want to do it. And I think with this flag, it was no different. Like you all had an idea of what you wanted to do. You came together and you figured out a way to do it. And you brought so much healing to people. And I mean, you're saying I'm doing something big with this book, but it's nothing in comparison to what you all did with this flag and the time and the effort and the dedication that you put into putting this flag back together and what that means. So that is inspiring to me. You all are inspiring to me. And that's really why I wanted to write this.
I have to correct you. We're in the exponential hope and healing business. And without people like you taking what we did years ago and packaging it in this book, more and more people are going to learn about this. So you're just as much part of the story as all the folks who made this possible.
Thank you. Now we're all part of the story, and I'm happy to have you all part of my story too. And connected. Thanks for the question, Sidan.
This has been amazing. This has just been really amazing. I'm sad that we have to kind of bring this to a close. And yet it's been such an inspiring hour, as you can see in the comments. I think we have maybe one more official thing to do, and then we will say goodbye.
Yeah. So we have a little giveaway that we were going to do to wrap us up here. And it's for the note cards with Sally's beautiful art on it. So it's a 5-pack of note cards. So if you were in attendance tonight and stuck around until the end right now, Kira's going to do a little name randomizer, and we're going to pick a winner for the 5-pack. And I will connect with you maybe through email to get your address and send these to you.
Yes, because I think I have everybody's address here, or email address here. So I'm going to share my screen now, which I hear you're not supposed to announce, but I just announced it. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to go to the name randomizer. Okay, can everybody see that? Ta-da! It's like Wheel of Fortune, but with names. Okay, and then I'm going to press. I think I'm just going to press go. I'm going to press.
So fancy. Anna!
Okay, so Anna, please tell me that you're here and raise your hand and tell us that you're here.
Is Anna here? Anna's here.
Yay! All right, so you have won the postcards. Congratulations! Yay! That's phenomenal. Oh, I'm so excited. Yes.
Coming to you in the mail.
Those are you. I will connect with the email. We'll make that happen. Not a problem. Do I need to choose any more names out of the hat today? Are we all set?
I have one more pack if we want to do one more.
Yeah, we should do one more. Let's do it.
Thank you all for staying here.
Okay, so I'm going to remove Anna, and then I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. This is so great. I'm so glad that I pay attention to remote school, so that way I can choose the right app for this. Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna press the button. Ba-bam.
Andy.
All right. So Andy, if you're here, please raise your hand. Yes. All right, Andy, you get the second pack. Ba-bam. Nice. That's awesome. Congratulations. Yay. Oh, thank you for sticking around till the end, y'all. So Andy and Anna, I will make a note. I'm making a note. I'm gonna write it. I'm just gonna write it on a piece of paper right here. Andy and Anna. And we'll email. We'll make that hookup happen. Not a problem. All right. I think that brings this awesome launch to a close. Yes, Amanda, do you have any, are there any last things that you want to say? Any last thank yous?
I think just very quickly. So again, you can pre-order the book through Silver Unicorn.
Yes.
All pre-orders will get signed copies and other swag like bookmarks and stickers. And yeah, the book releases May 4th. So that's next week. And then there's for any teachers or parents or anyone else out there, there should be some teachers guides, full ones going on my website. I have some activity sheets now. But also, and then I have a couple of events next week too, so you can check out my website for that. The illustrator will be joining on one of those. So if you were interested in her perspective, that will be later on. And then I just wanted to ask Jeff or Carolyn and Denny, like how people, if they want to support New York Says Thank You, just really quickly. And I know you have a really cool project, Stars of Hope. If you just want to, really quickly talk about that.
Or
People want to
the
support.
websites are newyorksaysthankyou.org and starsofhopeusa.org. And we're focused now with Stars of Hope, which is a healing arts project that children and parents and people of all ages do around the country, around the world, to paint inspirational messages and designs on wooden stars that get sent to areas hit by all sorts of tragedy as a way to connect people with compassion, with love, and with hope. And we're always looking for support and volunteers, and it's something easy you can do from home and online as well.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any last words, Denny?
I think we're good.
No, I think we're good.
Thanks
again.
Thank you, though. Thank you very much. This was lots of fun.
Thank you all. Thank you again, Kira and Silver Unicorn. Thank you for everyone.
Thanks.
Stay in touch. Stay in touch
Aw.
with us.
Of course. You
Okay.
all, I consider you my friends now. So
Okay.
Oh.
Good.
This has been the best. This has been the best. So it's my duty just to say, congratulations again and again, Amanda. Your book is simply beautiful, and we at the Silver Unicorn are honored to help you launch this into the world. And you were right. Your book is not quite in the world yet. It will be out on the 4th. Though I have a copy of it in my hands and I feel really good about that. And there are copies at the Silver Unicorn that will be signed by Amanda. So if you are a person who would like a signed copy of 30,000 Stitches, the only place that you can get that is at Silver Unicorn Bookstore or at silverunicornbooks.com. You can write your information into the comment section just in so that way we can make sure that we personalize the book just for you, and then there will just be personalized or signed copies at the bookstore available to you, and I'm trying to think of what else. I think that's it. I'm just so excited about people getting their hands on this book and sharing it with their families, sharing it with their schools. I was a senior in high school on 9/11, right outside of Washington, D.C. I have friends who've lost their parents at the Pentagon. So that day resonates with me. And now I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, and this book will live in my house. So that way I can share this history with them, because you're right, it's history for them, but it's real. It was a real moment for us. So Amanda, your art matters. Thank you so much for sharing this with the world. And thank you for introducing us to Jeff and Carolyn and Denny today. It's been a delight to speak with you and hear your stories. It means so much. Everyone, go get this book. Order it from silverunicornbooks.com or go get it at an independent bookstore near you. Everyone, please stay safe out there. Take a moment to pause and remember. And in all the chaos of the world right now, these moments matter and books like this matter. So stay safe, read, pause, and see us again soon. We have so many events going on at the bookstore, and we would be delighted to host you again. So visit our website, see our events page, and see us again, and come to the bookstore and see us in person. We look forward to seeing you. All right, everyone. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Get out of here.